Hello and welcome to this video. This vlog will cover the week of my holiday away in Cornwall, on which I've just arrived. We've just turned up in this beautiful cottage, which will be ours for the week. I am so in love with the interior design of this place. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm sure prior to this clip you've seen quite a lot of B-roll, but I don't think I've actually spoken to the camera yet. So we've headed down to Cornwall for the week, as I said. Very, very long journey, lots and lots of traffic on the motorway, but doesn't matter, over now, and it's more than worth it to be in such a lovely place for an entire week away from work. I am so excited to have just no responsibility, to have a wonderful break, and apparently lots of sun too. The weather is set to be really, really good, so I look forward to lots of explorations on the moorlands and the coasts, and of course reading lots of books. I will get to my reads in a moment and show you what I've brought with me. But as I said, arrived in the cottage now. We did stop at a beautiful National Trust property and just looked around the gorgeous gardens for an hour or so on the way down, which I think you've also seen B-roll of. But now I'm settling in and probably have some dinner after a lovely drink in the garden with my book, which I'm about to do. So let me just take you through the reads I've brought for this week, and then we will head out and do some reading in the garden. So let me spin you around. So I brought these 4 books with me on this trip. Of course, you can see straight away that bright yellow one at the bottom there. That is the classic Jamaica Inn by Daphne du Maurier. Now, this is very, very appropriate for this week because I am staying in Cornwall and in fact very, very close to where this book is actually set. So I'm really excited to finally get around to reading this. I bought this beautiful edition quite some time ago and have just never got around to reading it. So this holiday seemed like the perfect excuse. I am very much a location-based reader in that I like to read books that are themed around where I'm staying, or the type of place that I'm in influences the type of story I want to read, that kind of thing. So Jamaica Inn is very appropriate for that reason. The one above it also is somewhat appropriate in that it is set at sea, from what I understand, and of course I will be spending a fair amount of my time at the coast this week. So that book is The Bone Ships, the first book in the Tide Child trilogy. Gosh, that's a tongue twister, by R.J. Barker. I have been looking forward to reading this for ages, but just didn't want to commit to any more fantasy series while I still had so many on the go. But I've decided this holiday was a perfect excuse. So I'm looking forward to getting into that one too. I do also have the audiobook for this one, so I might be able to listen to that on some of my walks. I then also brought Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne, another classic, another one I've been meaning to read for a while. I watched the BBC adaptation of this at the start of the year and thoroughly enjoyed it, so I'm looking forward to seeing how much of that is actually accurate from the original story and how much is new. And I just feel like I'm going to really like this one. I love an adventure story and I love that Victorian period of history, so it should be a good one. And then the one at the top I have actually already started just earlier in the gardens, and that is Death at the Dance by Verity Bright. This is the second Lady Eleanor Swift mystery novel, which is my new obsession in this series. I love them. Historical 1920s murder mysteries. Very much fun. Probably a very quick read, but I couldn't not bring one with me. So that's the 4 books we'll be working our way through. I think I'm going to carry on with Death at the Dance now, but probably that one will be done in the next day or two, and then I'll be able to get started with one of the others. So, it is Sunday afternoon. I am currently sat out on the moor in glorious sunshine. We have spent the day by the coast, walking along the coast paths, enjoying lots of lovely scenery, lots of sunshine. It's been absolutely beautiful. So quiet as well, hardly any people around, which is really surprising for a weekend in Cornwall in the summer, but I am not complaining. So, as I said, lovely day at the sea, but we're now back on the moors, just enjoying an hour or so sitting out in the sunshine and getting some reading done before heading back to the cottage. I have found a beautiful spot right by the river, which you may be able to see in the background. I say river, it's more of a stream really, but really, really pretty, and the sound of trickling water in the background is exactly what I needed to cool myself down because it is so hot today. And of course I'm doing some reading, so I have started today both reading physically and listening to The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker, which I've been really looking forward to reading in this holiday. I wanted to save it for a trip when I was at the sea because I like to read books that are appropriate to the location that I'm in. So obviously a seafaring book is very appropriate for a seaside holiday. I get that not most people do not do that, but it's something I've always enjoyed to do. I feel it just gets me in the mood for the book even more. So The Bone Ships is one I've been anticipating for a while. I was actually gifted this particular book by one of my lovely subscribers, Tony, so thank you very much, Tony. I'm really glad I finally got to this book. And I've read probably about 60 pages now, so I feel like I've got enough of the story just to give you a little bit of a synopsis. So this first book in what I believe is a trilogy follows our main character, Joram Twiner, and his adventures within this seafaring society. So their boats are all created from the bones of sea dragons, which are lost to the society now, but make for very strong vessels. And within the society you have both the white bone ships, which are the fleet, the kind of the army, I suppose, of their society, and also the black ships, on which the crew is comprised of men and women who are condemned from society, committed various crimes. They're not sentenced to death, but they're also outcasts from the normal society, so they have to crew these black ships. Joram Twiner, our main character, as I said, is one such of these black ship crew, and in fact at the very beginning of the book he is actually the captain, or ship's wife as they call it in these books, of this particular black ship, the Tide Child. However, very quickly into the book, in the first chapter in fact, he loses control of this ship by not even a proper fight. He's completely overpowered by a woman called Mies Gilbrin, who is actually the daughter of the ruler, I guess, of this area or this kingdom. But she also mysteriously has been condemned to the black ships and takes over as ship's wife, and the story follows from there of her as yet unclear motivations for wanting captaincy, also for wanting Joram to stay somewhat in control. She gives him the second in command's position, and yeah, that's as far as we've got. I expect we'll have lots of fighting, lots of political intrigue as well, lots of seafaring talk, and I'm just really looking forward to this. It's a fantasy world that I think I'm really going to enjoy, and I'm actually racing through this book because, as I said, I've been listening to the audiobook too. So I've been listening to a little bit on my walk. I'm now reading physically. I think I'm probably going to end up finishing this within a couple of days and probably buying the second one as an audiobook as well. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. So I think the series has a lot of potential, and I'm really looking forward to getting back into it. So I shall read another chapter or two now before we head back to the cottage, and I will probably check in with you again a little bit later on. Hello! It is now Monday evening and I've had the most wonderful day out on the moors, lots and lots of walking and reading Jamaica Inn by Daphne du Maurier. Now, this was the one book that I especially wanted to read this holiday because it is a classic, of course. It's one that I've been procrastinating for a very long time, but also it is set in the very area that I'm staying on holiday. So being someone who likes to read books set where they're staying, it was the perfect choice for this trip, and I'm really, really glad that I have, because I am absolutely loving this book. And in fact, I'm very, very nearly finished. I only have 40 pages left of this book until I finish it, which I fully plan to do once I'm home from my evening stroll. So, to summarise my thoughts on this book so far, so I read the first few chapters before going out for a walk today on the moorland and have thoroughly enjoyed visiting a lot of the places that are referenced in the book during my walks today. So it's very much a Gothic type classic. It's a modern classic in the fact that it was written in the 20s, 30s. You know, it's fairly recent compared to a lot of them, but it is set in a much more historic period. It's kind of the early 1800s when this book is set, and very much feels appropriate to that time period. So we follow our main character, Mary Yellen, who has come from the lovely, tranquil part of Devon, Cornwall area of Helston. But her mother dies and her farm comes into jeopardy, and she ends up having to go and stay with her aunt, who she knows very little about, who she thinks lives at Bodmin, but in fact does not live there. She lives at the infamous and very much feared by most of the population location of Jamaica Inn, which is run by her uncle, Joss Merlin, who is the innkeeper there. And Mary finds a very different world from that which she expected to go and live in with her aunt. So Jamaica Inn is feared by all of the populace in the surrounding area. It is known for very nefarious deeds. It's known for being frequented by some of the most criminal types in Cornwall. And there's just a great air of foreboding about the whole place. And the sequence in the very first chapter with Mary in the carriage driving across the moor in the dark in the November wild weather, and it's just absolutely wonderful. It's all of the beats of Gothic stories, which I absolutely love. The writing in this book is absolutely tremendous. It makes me think of so many essays that I could have written in English literature classes back in the day about this story. The character portrayals is absolutely wonderful. The language which Daphne du Maurier uses to describe the settings and some of the similes he uses for various aspects of the plot is just absolutely wonderful. I love the literary techniques, and I'm really, really enjoying reading something which feels so intellectual. It's been quite a while since I read a book like this. And the plot is also very, very captivating. It's not all just about literary techniques. It's a really, really interesting story too. So Mary's exposure to the nefarious deeds of Jamaica Inn and her real kind of fight for being her own person and not being influenced and not behaving the way that she's expected to behave, I find really, really interesting. And she is definitely an independent spirit far beyond her time period that she was written in, which I think reflects the fact that this book was written a lot more in a modern timescale than when it was set. But nevertheless, I really, really enjoy Mary as a character, and I'm really intrigued to see how this book actually ends. I knew the story a little bit before starting this one. I had seen an adaptation of this many, many years ago, and I visited this area on holiday as well a lot before, so I kind of know vaguely the connections to some of the local areas and things, but the intricacies of the plot were as yet unknown to me, and I've really, really enjoyed figuring those out and just being immersed in this wonderful storyline. The vicar is possibly one of the creepiest characters I've ever read about. He's a wonderful character, but I absolutely hate him. And as I say, it's been so much fun associating places that I've read about in the story with places that I visited, mostly today actually, but across my holiday, and probably will visit for the rest of the few weeks too. So a very, very good book. I think this one's going to probably come out at a high 4-star for me. I have about 40 pages left, as I've said, but I will definitely get that finished when I'm back from my walk, and I'm really, really happy to have got through yet another book this holiday. I'm doing really, really well. So I will enjoy another half an hour or so out here on the moors, enjoying some evening sunshine, and I will check in with you again tomorrow and let you know what book I'm next going to pick up. Hello, so we're now midway through the holiday. I have no idea when I last updated you, but I feel like it's been a while since I did an actual reading update. I've been filming lots and lots of b-roll, so I've very much lost track of what I've been saying to the camera, but I feel like I haven't spoken for a little while, so here we go with reading updates. So I've been incredibly productive this holiday week so far. As you know already, I think I read Sparkling Cyanide by Agatha Christie on the way down here. I listened to that as the audiobook. A thoroughly enjoyable read. Really, really good way to spend a journey in traffic. And since I've been here, I have now completed my read of Death at the Dance by Verity Bright, which is a kind of historical murder mystery set in the 1920s, which I am thoroughly enjoying the series of. That was my second book in that series. I own the next two as well at home and fully anticipate reading both of those soon and buying more in the series. I think it's a really long series. I think there's at least like 10 books out, which I'm really excited about because they are my new kind of light-hearted binge read contemporary style, except that I don't read contemporaries, you know, that kind of read. So I'm really excited to get to the rest in that series. I then also have read Jamaica Inn by Daphne du Maurier. I read the entirety of that yesterday while we were having a beautiful day out on the moors in all of the locations that the book references. I've had a really, really fun time with this one, referencing all of the places and the events and things while I've been out and about wandering on the moors, and I really, really enjoyed this one. High 4 out of 5 stars. It may even become a 5 the more I think about it. I really, really enjoyed it, and I honestly can't think of anything wrong with it. So it was slightly cliche, I suppose, in parts, but I feel like it did it so well that it didn't matter. You know, it got away with the absolute character stereotypes and the very expected beats of a gothic story, but I don't know, I feel like it was so well done that it didn't really matter, and it was beautifully written, so I'm so glad I finally got to reading that one. I almost wish I could relive that experience already as I'm still here. I kind of want to read it again already, but I will not because I have lots of other books to get through. I have also then read and just finished actually this evening The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker, which I again have thoroughly enjoyed. Definite 5-star for this one. A new fantasy series to me, and one which I'm definitely going to carry on with very, very soon. In fact, I have already purchased the sequel on Audible, so I can carry on reading the audiobook later in the week, probably when I'm back on another day at the seaside. I loved this one. Again, I loved making it relevant to the holiday by reading it on the days that I was at the coast, but an absolutely wonderfully crafted fantasy story, a beautiful world. Really love the seafaring, piratey vibes of the story. I always love that kind of thing in a fantasy novel, and considering I was a little bit worried about this one because it, from reading the synopsis, really, really reminded me of The Live Ship Traders by Robin Hobb, which I absolutely loved. And I was worried this would be a bit too much a copycat or trying to reinvent things that I'd already loved in that story. But apart from the obvious things that it's a seafaring set on ships kind of book and it features sea dragons, there's not really much similar at all about the plot, so it was a very different entity, and I'm very glad I picked this one up, and as I said, really excited for the sequel. I think this will be a trilogy that I will just binge over the next week or so, and I'm really, really excited I've finally got to it. Sorry about my appearance, by the way. It's kind of wild out here this evening, and I've been in the sea today and covered in sun cream, so I look an absolute state, but honestly, I do not care. I've had the best day at the sea, and it's just been so worth it, so appearance is kind of bottom of my priority list right now, so I hope you don't mind. So that's kind of caught you up to date with what I'm reading. As I say, I have purchased the audiobook for the second Bone Ships book, so I probably will be starting that one over the next few days. And in terms of my physical reads that I brought with me, the only other one that I have left is Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne, which again I want to pick up in the next couple of days. I probably will start that one tomorrow and then go back to the Bone Ships series when I'm back at the sea again. We've been kind of alternating days of one day at the sea, one day on the moorland, so I think it's back to the moors tomorrow and then back to the sea the following day, so they will be my reads for the rest of the holiday. If I pick anything else up as well, I will be, of course, letting you know. But I'm just having the most wonderful time, and I love this midpoint of a holiday because you are so comfortable where you are, you're really immersed in the week, but it still feels like there is a good chunk of time left and you're not thinking, it's the last day, I need to go home. So I'm just so happy right now. I'm so relaxed. It's just such a novel feeling compared to how I've been for God knows how long, to be honest. I've been so stressed with work recently, and this is just the most perfect escape that I could have wished for. So here's for several days more of the same thing. Lots more nature and countryside and seaside scenery and sun and all of the good things, and reading, of course. So I will chat to you again tomorrow probably and catch you up on where I'm at with my reading. Hello, once again I'm out in the evening along the lane. It is now Thursday evening and I'm just absolutely making the most of tonight because I know it's the last night I've got that I'm not thinking it's the last night of the holiday. So as morbid as that seems, I'm really enjoying this evening for that reason. So I'm enjoying the last of the sunset lighting behind me over the fields. I've had a lovely walk slash run down the lanes, that's why I'm looking a little bit red in the face. And on top of a 7-mile coastal walk as well. I feel like I'm definitely getting my exercise in this week, which is great. I've also had a productive day of reading, not quite so much as the last few days as I haven't listened to an audiobook on my walks, but I have made some good progress into Around the World in 80 Days, so I will let you know my thoughts on that one tomorrow. I also want to get back into Call of the Bone Ships tomorrow, so lots more to come, lots more reading, lots more adventures on the last day of the holiday, but just wanted to document this moment, as I said, of another beautiful night on this holiday, on these evening walks that isn't my last night. So before I get depressed tomorrow, here is a happy moment and a little bit more scenery, and I will check in with you again tomorrow and enjoy the last day of the holiday. Last day in this beautiful cottage. I'm really going to miss it here. I've had the most incredible week. Really beautiful scenery, beautiful weather, lots of productive reading, and just having a break from everything has been exactly what I've needed. But we will be heading back today. One more walk this morning, I think, on the moors before we go, then a wonderful couple of hours on the motorway, and then we'll be back home. But I just wanted to document my last morning. I'm also really going to miss this blanket. It's the coziest, snuggliest thing in the world, and I need to get one for home. But let's say goodbye to this pretty bedroom, and I will check in with you again once I'm home. Do not want to leave this place. I'm going to miss the peace and quiet and the solitude so much. It's been the most perfect escape, and I wish I could stay here forever. Gosh, I look really, really tanned. Hello, so as you will see from the more familiar background, I am now home from holiday. Very, very sadly, I've had the most amazing week. Just the perfect escape that I could have wished for. Beautiful weather, beautiful scenery, and really productive reading. So it's been absolutely perfect all round. So I thought to wrap up this vlog, I would just take you quickly through all of the books that I read this week and say my goodbyes, because this is probably quite a long video by now. I know I've been trying to add footage and edit partly while I've been away, and I know I'm up to at least 25 minutes, and that's from Thursday. So I'm guessing this is going to be a long one, but hopefully you've stuck around for the end. Anyway, so to summarise, I have had a really, really productive reading week. So I started off by listening to the audiobook of Sparkling Cyanide by Agatha Christie on my journey on holiday in the few hours that I was stuck in the car in traffic, mainly. Yeah, I needed some distraction. And I really, really enjoyed this one. A strong 4-star, really, really perfect book to read to distract me from the traffic. As I said, I love Agatha Christie's writing, and this was one of the strongest Agatha Christie books I have read in a very long time, if at all. I loved this one, and I definitely will be getting hold of a copy of this one to have in my collection. Really, really fun read. The next one I moved on to was also a murder mystery, and one that I'd started just prior to coming on holiday, and that was Death at the Dance by Verity Bright, which is the second book in a new favourite cosy murder mystery series of mine. Absolutely loved this too. I think I liked the first one plot-wise ever so slightly more, but really, really enjoyed this one too. I love the world that this creates, and I really, really like our main character, Lady Eleanor. She is just everything I would want to be in a 20s woman, and I think she's amazing. So I really eagerly anticipate the rest of this series. This was a good 4-star as well from me. I then had a bit of a change of pace and moved on to some fantasy, that being The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker, the first in the Tide Child trilogy, which I have been eagerly anticipating for a very long time. And I'm pleased to say I absolutely loved this one. 5 out of 5 stars, really strong series. I'm so glad I finally got into this one. And I have in fact read the second one in the series as well, which I'll get onto in a moment. But really, really strong series, really good book, just incredible plot, world building, constant action, really strong characters, everything I could want in a fantasy series. And of course had the swashbuckling seaside element as well, which was perfect for a holiday to the coast. Another one which was also perfect for where I was staying was Jamaica Inn by Daphne du Maurier. This was, again, a really, really enjoyable read. Another high 4 stars from me. One of the most enjoyable classics I've read for a very long time. I loved the story. It was so well written, so amazing to refer to so many places that I was staying in and had visited in the past. Again, a very action-packed plot for a classic. I thought it was very, very plot-heavy, which you often don't get in classics. They're often much more character-based and more kind of slow burn plots, whereas this one was very action-packed, very dramatic. I loved our heroine, Mary. She was very ahead of her time and just a wonderful character. And I loved all of the sort of gothic elements of this and how it should have been really cliche, but kind of worked. So really, really strong book. I'm very glad I read this one. And isn't this the most gorgeous cover? It looks really, really bright today, but yeah, I love this one. So another very strong read. I then, as I said, moved on to the second Tide Child trilogy book, Call of the Bone Ships, also by R.J. Barker, of course, which I don't have physically. I listened to the audiobook of this one, but I will show you a picture, I'm sure. I love this one too, just as strong as the first book. Really intense developments in the story, some quite horrible events, but also really heartwarming in places too. Very pacey and action-packed, as with the first one. I'm so in love with this series, another 5-star, and I really, really want to get to the third one very, very soon. I will probably purchase the audiobook later on today, if I'm honest. And I have also ordered the paperbacks of the second and third books, which should be arriving in the next couple of days. So hopefully I can do a mixture of physical and audio reading of that third book. And then finally, I am still partway through this one, but Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne was my final holiday read. I'm only about a third, maybe-ish, of this one through. I am reading this one a little bit slower, but only because I've been dipping in and out of multiple books in the last few days. But I'm really enjoying this one as well. This one I think probably at the moment is more like probably a low 4-star. It's definitely more than a 3, but it's not quite so captivating as the rest of them. I'm not completely blown away with it, which is why I'm a little tentative on ratings, but I'm thoroughly enjoying this too. I love the writing style of this kind of Victorian period, and I really like our main character Phileas Fogg and his development throughout this book so far. I love the descriptions of the adventures as well. It really is a little slice of Victorian life, and the whole aesthetic of Victorian adventurer is something I really, really enjoy. So I am enjoying this one too. It's so different though from what I thought it was going to be plot-wise. I think because I've only experienced this story through the recent BBC adaptation, and the plot is literally nothing like it. Like, apart from the main concept of the two characters who go on a trip around the world in 80 days, there is very little that's actually similar. So it's good in a way because it means I'm experiencing this book for the first time, but it's quite amusing to compare how differently things were portrayed. But regardless, it doesn't matter, I'm enjoying it. So this one will be my challenge for the rest of the weekend. And then, as I say, next week, I think I will move straight onto the third Bone Chips book because they are just so, so good. I need to finish this series. I haven't binged a series back to back like this for quite some time, and I'm really loving it. So that concludes a very, very productive holiday week. I have read 5 books, is that? So 2 Bone Ships, Death at the Dance, Sparkling Cyanide, Jamaica Inn, and half of Around the World in 80 Days. So yeah, 5.5 books to date for this week, which is incredibly productive. I think I worked out that I'd read getting on for 2,000 pages as well, which is, again, amazing. I'm so happy. I love being so productive with reading when I'm on holiday, which always happens, but I'm just dreading going back to work and not being able to read very much again because I've really rediscovered my passion for all of these stories recently, and I'm so sad that that won't be able to continue, but who knows, I might be able to fit in some more reading this week. We will hope for the best because I definitely want to get that third Bone Chips book read. So without further ado, I will leave this video here. Thank you very much for watching as always. Leave me a like down below if you enjoyed it. Chat to me in the comments about any of the books I've read, anything else you'd like to discuss with me. I always love to chat to you guys. And please consider subscribing if you'd like to see more content from me. It means a lot and it really, really helps grow my channel. Thank you for watching. I will see you very soon in the next video. So goodbye for now.